if there's any, team that I had that was one of the best teams that I was on, it was during my second deployment, and it was just a bunch of animals. I mean, we were uh, one of the best teams I've been on. I mean, truly walking with giants. They were great at we were great at what we did. We were very professional, tactically proficient in everything that we did. We trained hard, we fought hard, and we loved each other. Like a big family. And that was one of the best units I've ever been a part of. Because as you get back and units change and they shift and mold into these new things and stuff, but with people coming in, people going out. But that was probably, if I could give any shout out, that was one of my favorite units and one of my favorite teams to be a part of.
And on that second deployment, did you see quite a bit of combat as well?
The second deployment was a little bit different than the first, in that the first one was a lot more kinetic and shooting at each other. The second one was more of a fight in chasing ghosts. So we were originally sent there into the southern part of Afghanistan for one mission, and that was advising and training the Afghan National Civil Order Police in this one area of Helmand, Afghanistan. We soon got repurposed and taken up to the Arghandab River Valley in Kandahar, just outside of Kandahar, to replace this one unit who was getting pretty jacked up there, and they are now combat ineffective because of the amount of people they had lost. So we went over, took up that battle space, and essentially kind of had the same mission as the first. The first big part of it is eliminating enemy freedom of movement. We want to ensure that we're here and we don't give them any chance or opportunity to walk around, start rat lines, cache stuff, set up, weapons emplacements, everything like that. So we moved into that area, but a lot of what was there was all mines, Chinese PMN mines, or I think they're Pakistani or Iranian PMN mines, and they would be either spider wired out with det cord to jugs of homemade explosive for anti-personnel, or other methods. And you'd have them set up. The guys were smart. I mean, they were definitely resilient in how they fought, and they watched us to a T, because you could tell how they were setting up their booby traps, and how they were setting up their tripwires, and how they were setting up basically the run on of like how these mines are set up, where it triggers here and then it sends it out to these guys pretty much exactly where we'd be standing in a file or column or anything like that. So it was a lot of that, and it was a lot of watching people get blown up, or stepping on mines and losing their legs, losing their foot, losing their leg, getting blown in half completely, and there's no retribution at all. I mean, you're fighting ghosts. They would lay them in just as fast as we could find them, and so we really never got that kind of closure from that deployment of like, you hit one of mine, I hit one of yours, or an eye for an eye in a sense. And so it was a rough one. I think my company, we had, it was over like 55 or 60% Purple Hearts for that deployment. We lost several, and then there was a lot. Yeah, there was a lot on that deployment.
And were you able to get out unscathed?
Yeah, I will say one thing about all the deployments and everything that I went through is, for the most part, I made it out generally unscathed, a lot better off than a lot of other people had it. And, that's one thing I've always wondered, not so much the why, but it's just crazy to think about, like with everything that went on and this and that, like, had I been, a few feet to the right, a few feet to the left, it wouldn't have been necessarily the same story. But just to come through back to back to back deployments that were, not necessarily the easiest places at all by any means. I mean, every deployment I was on, there's books about. So to come back from all those and be relatively like unscathed is, it's kind of a mind fuck in itself, to just think about. And I mean, I'm grateful, but I definitely put my guardian angel to work, or whoever's watching over. So, but yeah, no, it was that deployment that, for being 12 months, was one of the longest 12 months of my life.
In a situation like that, what are your rules of engagement? Because it is, I think a lot of people know, the Taliban or who's ever run around Afghanistan is not wearing. It's not like World War II where you can see, oh, they're wearing a German uniform, they're wearing a Soviet uniform. So what does it take for you guys to have the green light to engage someone if they're not actually shooting at you yet?
Well, essentially hostile activity or hostile intent, you know. Obviously if they're carrying around a weapon, you know, that's something we'll confront them about. But, you know, especially during that time with a little bit about the change in the rules of engagement at that time, which is different leadership, you know, it became more of a counterinsurgency fight and a lot more hearts and minds and, you know, win the locals. And, you know, for every, you know, every person that, you know, every one person that we say like kill, you know, they would say that, you know, 3 more pop up. So it was a much different fight, but yeah, that it wasn't as kinetic that time. We had a few engagements, but for most part, we were on mine patrol for probably about 9 months.
And then this is my last question. I've really enjoyed getting your perspective on things. As an Afghan vet who did 3 deployments, obviously the pullout of Afghanistan was a complete and utter disaster, aside from whether or not anyone thinks we should have left. But the pullout itself was humiliating, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts as a Afghan vet on how everything went down?
Yeah, for sure. I think we could have done a lot better. I mean, we have the capability to have done a lot better. I don't know what was going on at the time. I don't make those, you know, those operational decisions. But looking at it, it's kind of one of those things. Is like we dropped the ball, 100%, and we dropped the ball. We could have done better. We should have done better, and we know that. So, you know, regardless of what happened, how it happened, it's, you know, it's in the past at this point. But, you know, do better.
Did you feel as an Afghan vet, was there any like, you know, you just sat back and thought, I did 3 deployments over there and now we're running away with planes, we're all leaving. Was that hard for you?
So I had a lot of buddies and there's a lot of different kind of schools of thought about it. And one thing, you know, I've had a lot of buddies that, you know, from both sides of like, you know, everything we did there was kind of is a complete waste now. You know, it was all for nothing. It was all for nothing. We lost people, we lost this, and it was all for nothing. But, and I can see that. I can very well identify with that too. But my kind of school of thought is, you know, how are we honoring those people if it was all for nothing? You know, it's got to mean something. We did a lot of good while we were there. You know, like I was mentioning, we did a lot of schools. Like we helped build a lot of schools. We transformed a lot of lives. And it is my hope that those lives that we did touch, those lives that we did change while we were there trying to make an impact, are able to be, you know, productive members of society now. You know, some of them may be here in the United States, some may be in other parts of the world, but I hope we gave, you know, if we even gave one little girl or one little boy a chance to have a better life, then it's all worth it to me.
We'll end it right there. That's a great way to end it.